You might remember the rhythm of an older train ride. Click-clack, click-clack. For generations, that sound came from the wheels passing over tiny gaps between short pieces of steel track. Those gaps solved an ordinary law of physics. Steel expands when it gets hot. The empty space gave the warming metal somewhere to grow. But look at a modern railway, and you will see seamless lines of steel stretching straight to the horizon. The expansion gaps have largely vanished. The steel still absorbs the summer sun, and it still tries to expand. Without those empty spaces to grow into, a heated rail can rapidly push sideways and buckle right beneath a passing train. Engineers willingly took on this massive physical risk for the sake of efficiency. Every old expansion joint meant another bump for the train and another part that could wear out or break. To guarantee a smoother ride and cut down on constant repairs, crews began welding tracks into continuous lengths, stretching hundreds and often thousands of feet long. Getting rid of the joints solved a massive maintenance headache, but it created an immense thermodynamic problem. We are now left with unbroken ribbons of heat-absorbing metal, fastened tightly to the earth, trapped in a state that seems to ignore the physical rules of expansion. This animation illustrates what happens inside the metal. Modern track doesn't eliminate thermal expansion, it converts it. Bolt hot steel to the ground, it still wants to grow, but because restraints stop physical movement, the temperature change translates directly into internal compression. As the metal heats up, it is squeezed with staggering force. The rail is trying with all its might to become longer, constantly searching for any weakness to escape sideways, while the rest of the track physically forces it to stay straight. To manage this tension without the tracks bending, engineers rely on a metric called the rail neutral temperature. This is a highly specific thermal set point, where the steel feels zero physical urge to stretch or contract against its restraints. Crews deliberately install the steel, or artificially adjust it, so this neutral point sits perfectly balanced for the local climate. A track built in an area that experiences scorching summers and freezing winters must be calibrated to a temperature that keeps the forces on both ends of the thermometer from becoming lethal. A railway's defense against a heat wave begins long before a train ever arrives. It relies completely on this invisible thermodynamic balance, locked directly into the solid steel. When summer compression hits, a physical defense holds that energy in check beneath the rail. Fasteners clamp the steel to ties, preventing lengthwise sliding. These ties are buried in jagged crushed stone called ballast, which interlocks to physically block the track from shifting sideways. This creates a strange reality in railway engineering. Routine maintenance can temporarily make the track more dangerous. If crews lift a rail or replace a single tie, they disturb that tightly packed bed of stone underneath. Loose, freshly moved ballast provides far less resistance against a highly compressed rail trying to push sideways. Until the weight of passing trains forces those crushed rocks to settle and lock back together, engineers enforce strict speed limits on newly repaired sections to prevent the rails from buckling. The ground beneath a train might look like a random pile of rocks, but it is an active, unified restraint system. Moving even a few shovelfuls of that stone can compromise the entire railway. That holding strength is pushed to its absolute limit on sunny summer days. Dark steel absorbs solar energy so efficiently that a rail sitting in direct sunlight can easily reach temperatures 20 degrees Celsius higher than the surrounding air. If you are ever on a train that suddenly slows down during a heat wave, you are feeling the railway protect itself. A locomotive moving at high speeds introduces intense vertical and lateral vibrations into the track. When the steel is already carrying maximum thermal compression, slowing the train reduces those dynamic forces and helps keep the track locked in place. Summer is only half the engineering challenge. When the seasons change and freezing winter weather sets in, the entire system reverses its physics. When the temperature drops far below that neutral set point, the steel wants to shrink. Because the track firmly holds it in place, the rail is thrown into intense tension. Instead of pushing sideways, the shrinking metal violently tries to pull itself apart. This exposes the ultimate balancing act for railway engineers. You cannot solve the summer buckling problem simply by calibrating the track to handle unlimited heat. If you shift the installation balance too far towards summer, the tension in winter becomes so great that the steel literally snaps in the cold. Modern continuous track is a quiet triumph of mechanical balance. To eliminate a few thousand visible gaps, engineers turned the landscape into the solution, using millions of tons of crushed rock and carefully calibrated steel to silence the relentless forces of nature directly beneath your feet.